and just answer all your questions about political asylum in the United States. For those who don't know me, I'm Brian Manning. I'm a political asylum lawyer, and my law firm is called Manning Asylum Law, and it's based in Houston, Texas. And we help people all over the country. So not just there in Houston where we're based, but everywhere in the United States. If you want to apply for asylum, or if you've already applied and now you want help, then let us know. We should talk because we may be able to help you. I'm a former asylum officer. I used to be an asylum officer with the government. And so I'm able to bring those insights and perspectives that I got from my time on the other side of the desk to help our clients and give them the best chance possible of winning asylum so they can stay safe and stay in the United States. Now, before we get to your questions, by the way, go ahead and start leaving your questions on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, wherever you're watching this. Feel free to go ahead and leave your questions, and I'm going to answer them. But I want to say a quick word about an announcement that the U.S. government made on January 5th. And this was when President Biden was at the border near El Paso, Texas, for a visit, and he announced this new program. Well, it's not necessarily a new program, but it's an expanded program. So you might have heard that Venezuelans, people from Venezuela, have been able, in some cases, to come to the United States and get what's called parole, or get paroled into the United States. And they were able to get this, some people were able to get this permission while they were still outside of the United States, to get a document that says, hey, when you show up to the United States on an airplane, we'll probably let you in, okay? And this is called a humanitarian parole. And this program was pretty successful. It just started back in October of 2022 for Venezuelans. And the government has decided, the US government has decided to expand this type of program, one where people get let into the country, basically so they can seek asylum once they get inside the country. And now, instead of just Venezuelans who can take advantage of this, it's been expanded to people from Nicaragua and Haiti as well, and Cuba. Okay, so now it's Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua, and Haiti. People from those countries can now, in some cases, apply to come to the United States so they can apply for asylum. Because remember, you can't apply for asylum from outside of the United States. You can't submit an asylum application unless you're in the United States. Now, it's not as simple as just being able to apply on your own from outside of the United States. Rather, you have to have a sponsor here in the United States who can basically show the government, the U.S. government, that they'll take care of you if you need it, like financially. Okay, they have to show that they're financially capable of helping you out, and then they have to have a background check done on them, and then as long as you meet certain qualifications, if you're the person who's overseas, you can get this permission to come to the United States. Now, what's the whole reason for this? The reason is that the government, the U.S. government, is trying to do this to avoid people coming to the southern border and seeking asylum there. They're saying, listen, don't come to the border. It's chaotic. The policies are changing every other day for how people who do that are treated. And it's dangerous, okay? People die en route to the United States. People get taken advantage of. There are smugglers and trafficking groups that do bad things to people. And so the U.S. government is saying, we don't want that. If you want asylum here, and you're from one of those four countries, Venezuela, Nicaragua, Haiti, or Cuba, then, and you're not in the United States right now, then you can, if you have a sponsor, you can ask to come to the United States so that you can apply for asylum. You can do this from your home country or from another country. And therefore, you don't need to come to the southern border, rather do this process online. And then you can get on a plane and come to the United States. And these paroles, or this basically this permission, parole is like another word for a permission to come into the United States, are valid for 2 years usually. Okay, so once you get into the United States, you can stay for 2 years, and you can apply for a work permit too while you're in this status. And so while you're here, you can formally apply for asylum, which, if you win, will give you the chance to stay here basically permanently. And you may remember that 1 year after you win asylum, you're eligible to apply for a green card, or for lawful permanent residence, okay? The chance to stay permanently. And then after you get that green card or permanent residence, 4 years after that, you're eligible to apply for U.S. citizenship. So the important thing, though, about this announcement is that it's creating a pathway for more people to be able to come to the United States legally. Okay. There's a cap on how many people can come through this channel. It's 30,000 people each month. And so we'll see how long this lasts. But I can tell you that we have seen that it is a pretty effective way, it has been for Venezuelans, to come to the United States to flee persecution and seek asylum here. It has been working. Again, I said that it's only been in place since October for Venezuelans, and it's just now, as of January, in place for these other three countries. But for Venezuelans, we've seen people come here on it. It's actually been working, and the government, USCIS, has been processing these requests to come pretty quickly. It all starts, though, with a sponsor in the United States. And I'm not going to go into details today about how it works in terms of who can be a sponsor and what the process is. But just know for now that you have to have a sponsor in the United States. You can't just apply for this on your own. In fact, the whole process starts with the sponsor in the United States asking to sponsor you and for you to be able to come here as the person who's overseas. All right. So it's definitely not going to fix the problems of the immigration system or probably make a huge impact on the situation at the southern border, but it's a good thing, in my opinion. So I wanted you to be aware of that in case you have friends or family members who are not in the United States and they're thinking about coming here to seek asylum. If they're from one of those four countries, Venezuela, Haiti, Cuba, or Nicaragua, and they're thinking about trying to come here, this is a chance to possibly be able to do it. There's no guarantees. You do have to meet some qualifications that I didn't mention today. But it's not super complicated. It's not that hard to apply. It's free to apply. The sponsor in the United States doesn't have to pay anything to start this process. So it's worth looking into if you have friends or family from one of those countries. Okay. All right. Having said that, let's get to questions and answers. So go ahead and just in the comments. By the way, let me know where you're watching from. In addition to asking me your questions about asylum in the United States, let me know where you're watching from. And if you want to let me know what country you're from too, that's great. I always love hearing that. Okay. So let's get to let's see what's going on here. Okay. Let's see. So Seat on the Loop says, question, I'm in the U.S. on asylum, but now I've met a lovely woman who's now pregnant for me. And my question is, do you think I should get married to her and drop the asylum case? Good question. Congratulations, both on having the partner and congratulations on a baby on the way. That's great news. So the question though is, when you get married, if you get married to someone who can petition for you, who can ask for you to get permanent residence here through them, should you drop your asylum case? So this person, you said I'm in the U.S. on asylum, but then you talked about possibly dropping the asylum case. I assume you mean that you have applied for asylum and you're in that process. You haven't got a decision yet on your case. So that's what I'm gonna go with. Let me know in the comments if I misunderstood or if that's not the case. So you're seeking asylum. You get married. I don't know the status of your spouse, but let's say it's a U.S. citizen who can ask for you to get a green card. If you get married, they can petition for you to get a green card, and you can get a green card even if you came to the United States illegally, like without a visa. No matter what your status is now, if it's a U.S. citizen that you get married to, you can get permanent residence through them, lawful permanent residence. You can get what's called a green card, right? So the question is, should you do that? And if so, should you drop your asylum case? The answer to the first question, should you do that? Yes. Well, I'm not going to tell you should get married. That's a big decision, and only you can make that decision. But I can tell you that if someone is married to a U.S. citizen, then the question becomes, should the person like you try to get the green card through it, then yeah. I mean, if you're trying to get legal status in the United States, that's usually the best, easiest, quickest way to do it is marriage to a U.S. citizen. So as long as it's a real marriage, and you can demonstrate that, you can show, hey, look, got this history of photos together and text messages back and forth and emails, and we share a bank account and we have a child together. These sorts of things can help convince the immigration judge, if you're in removal proceedings or if you are before USCIS, the immigration officer, convince them that, yeah, this is a real marriage, not something you entered into just to try to get immigration status, then you'll probably win. Okay. And that's much easier than winning asylum. But we still have to answer the question of, should you drop your asylum case? You should not drop your asylum case until you have that green card in your hand from a marriage. Okay. A lot of people make this mistake and they will drop their asylum case. Like, let's say you have your case pending with USCIS. They'll say, oh, I'm going to get married, or maybe they already gotten married and they've started the green card application process. Oh, I'm just going to go ahead and withdraw my asylum claim and tell the asylum office that I don't want asylum anymore, and I'm going to stop pursuing my claim, withdraw my application. That's a huge mistake, because unfortunately, believe it or not, these relationships sometimes don't work out. People sometimes break up, get divorced, which means you can't get the green card through that relationship anymore, or they get denied. Okay. The officer might think that you're lying and they might deny your case. So don't give up your asylum claim. Okay. Because you might need it. Because you might not end up getting the green card through marriage. So don't drop your asylum case. It's perfectly fine to have both of those cases going on at the same time, asylum and the marriage-based green card case. It's fine to have both of them going on. Okay. You don't need to drop asylum to get the green card through your spouse or your future spouse. Don't drop your asylum case until you get that green card through marriage in your hand. Okay. But thank you for asking the question. And again, huge congratulations. So that was the end of your question. All right, great. So let's see. Kent says, great work, Brian. Thanks for all you do. Thank you, Kent. I appreciate that. 2 quick questions. How much do you charge for the interview simulation, and how do we make an appointment? Your website says schedule is full. Can go back, check the website again. There should be availability. It might be a week and a half out, but there should be availability. I'll check into that though. Maybe there's some problem with our scheduling software, but I'll check into it. But you can definitely find my availability by calling my office. Okay. And the number, I'm going to put the number on the screen. Well, it's up top. If you're watching on YouTube, it's above my head, and Facebook as well. I'm going to put it on the bottom of the screen now. The number is 713-909-0401. Kent, you or anyone else who wants to talk about their immigration case, give us a call to set up a time to talk with me and in an asylum strategy session or consultation about what's going on with your situation. And I'll let you know what I think, whether I think we can help you. Okay. So yeah, I would love to talk with you, Kent. But to go back to your first question, how much do you charge for an interview simulation? We only offer that just like a straight up interview simulation, a mock interview or practice interview. We normally only offer it to people that hire us to do their whole case, whether that means they hire us from the very beginning before they apply, or after they have applied, people will hire us to be their lawyer, because there's still a lot that we can do. That's part of it. The mock interview is part of it. And in fact, it's a very important part. But there's a lot more in addition to that we like to do to give people the strongest possible chance of winning asylum. And so it's usually in that context that we do this practice interview or the simulation. Okay. So call us, and if after you tell me about your situation and I ask you some questions, as long as I think that you have some chance of winning asylum, then I will tell you how I think we can help you. And I'll tell you about what we normally do with people in your situation. It sounds like you've probably already applied, right? Now you're waiting for your interview. There's a lot we can do. Okay. And you may want to hire us for all of that. That's the best way. In my opinion, that will give you the best chance for winning asylum. If someone says, hey, I just want the mock interview, I don't care about the rest, the things that you can do for us, Brian, I just want the mock interview. We do that on a case-by-case basis. It depends on some things. So give us a call. Let's do a strategy session. Let's talk through it, and we can see whether, maybe you want to hire us for the rest of your case, or we can tell you whether we would be able to do the strategy session. And if so, we'll talk about the cost for it at that time, because it depends on a couple of things. Okay. But that brings up a good point. The question of, so what is there in addition to a mock interview? For someone in your position, in Kent's position, I believe that Kent has applied for asylum and is now waiting for their interview. Well, actually, guys, there's a lot you can still do to improve your chances for success, even though you already applied. Okay. We have lots of clients who come to us after they've applied because they say, you know what? I need help. I've seen that the asylum approval rates are low, right? The statistics are not favorable. And they want to get help. They want to be as prepared as possible. And so there's several things that we do. Okay. In addition to the practice interview, we're going to write a legal brief where we explain to the asylum officer exactly why you're qualified for asylum. And I do this based on my experience as a former asylum officer myself. Okay. Because you see, after every interview, the asylum officer has to write what's called an assessment, where they have to set forth in writing, okay, here's the facts of this case. Here's my decision, and here's why. Here's my reasoning or justification for how I got to this decision, okay? And there's actually a set template for how they do that, like a set format they have to use every time they write this assessment. Well, now, as an asylum lawyer, I use a very similar template or outline in the way that I structure my legal brief, because I want to give them the information that they're required to give to their boss, to show to their boss. I want to give it to them in a way that makes their job easy. This is like a roadmap, right? That shows them how to get to the answer yes in your case in the easiest way possible. And it's packaged for them in a way that, well, really the goal, what I want is I want the officer to literally be able to copy stuff from my legal brief and then just paste it into the assessment that they have to write, okay? Because we want it together. One of our goals is to make the asylum officer's life as easy as possible, okay? So in addition to the mock interview, we're going to do the legal brief, and we're going to get additional evidence, okay? Because even for people like Kent, I'm sure, who asked the question, Kent, I'm sure that you submitted evidence probably when you submitted your application, but there's more that we could probably benefit from. Okay, so we're going to analyze everything, review what you have submitted, and tell you what else we think that you should submit. Okay, we're going to ask you a bunch of questions about your case, about the materials that you did submit, so that we can really understand it, and so that we can determine what else we need to get, and so that we can understand the case well, so that we can use that information in the mock interview to help ensure that you're as prepared as possible. So in addition to those two things, like those three things, the legal brief, the additional evidence, and the mock interview, we're also we can represent you in your interview. Okay. So that's big. If you want to know details about why that matters and why that can be helpful to you, let me know in the comments, and I'll explain. But it's important. Okay. So thank you for the question, Kent. So let's see. Badru says, nice to have you back on live, Mr. Brian. Happy New Year. Thanks, Badru. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Happy New Year to you. All right. Okay. Tyler, let's see, on YouTube. Where's my Facebook questions? Facebook, watching on Facebook. Let me know what questions you have. On YouTube, Tyler says, what's the asylum approval rate? So at the asylum office, which is where your case will be if you're not in deportation proceedings. So if someone has never received a letter from an immigration court that says, hey, the government's trying to deport you, you have to go to immigration court to defend yourself, then they are applying, then their asylum case will be with USCIS, which stands for United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. And those kinds of cases before USCIS, I think the approval rate's in the 30 something percent last I saw. A couple months ago, there were statistics released, and there's not many statistics, by the way. USCIS rarely releases statistics. I think it was like 36 or 37% approval rate. Now you got to understand that it varies a lot by office. Some offices have way higher approval rates than others. Traditionally speaking, normally San Francisco has the highest approval rate. I think in the last stats that I saw, it was not the highest, but I think Newark, New Jersey was the highest approval rate, but it was a small sample size. Like, it was a small period of time that it was looking at. Usually over the last 10 or probably 20 years, San Francisco is usually the highest. And Los Angeles is often the second or third highest. Okay, that's usually, California is probably your best bet for winning asylum. So, but it varies a lot by office. And then it varies by country, the country that you, the applicant, are from. So, like Venezuelans used to get approved all the time. Back when I was an asylum officer, when I was an asylum officer with the Houston Asylum Office several years ago, man, Venezuelans got approved at a very high rate, probably like 70 or 80% approval. But that has changed. That's gone way down. Now it's below 50. I think it's definitely higher than the average of like 30 something. It's probably in the 40s or maybe 50%. But it's gone way down. Okay. And that kind of happens sometimes with people from certain places because the asylum officers sort of get tired of the cases and become more skeptical, and they think, oh, well, things are probably getting better now, or some other stupid reason. In any event, to answer your question, Tyler, approval rates probably in the 30s, I believe, for affirmative asylum. For defensive asylum, for cases in immigration court, it's actually higher approval rates now. That used to not be the case. In the past, the asylum offices had a higher approval rate than the immigration courts. But for the last year or so, that's changed. And now the immigration courts have a higher approval rate, something probably in the 40s. It's not a lot higher than the asylum offices, but it's higher. Okay. In fact, I did see a statistic recently that will be of interest, perhaps, that said that of all the cases that get sent from the asylum office to the immigration court, meaning the asylum office did an interview and they said, no, you do not qualify for asylum. And at that time of that negative decision, the person did not have lawful immigration status. Those cases get referred or transferred or sent over to the immigration court, where the government's trying to deport the person, but the person gets another chance to try to explain why they should get asylum. And of those cases, the ones that are sent from the asylum office to the immigration court, something like 60% of those ended up getting approved. So they got a negative decision by the asylum office, but then the immigration judges said, no, that's wrong. We think they should get asylum. That happened in about 60% of the cases. So basically, the immigration court effectively overturned or overruled USCIS. Not technically, but they had a different opinion about whether the person should win. So that should be encouraging for those of you to whom this has happened. If you've had a case where you had the interview at USCIS and then your case is sent to the immigration court, don't worry. Take heart. You may still win. Okay, there's a decent chance. A lot of cases do get approved at the asylum or at the immigration courts, despite a negative decision at the asylum office. All right. Let's see. Let's take a question from YouTube from Emmanuel, who says, he says, there could be a problem for not having applied for asylum within a year. I came in 2006, but I applied in 2014. They already gave me the interview and I'm waiting for the decision. And he says, I belong to the LGBTQ community. Well, thanks for your question, Emmanuel. Yeah, so the 1-year filing deadline is tough. There's a lot of cases that get denied because of this. So, Emmanuel, you already had your interview, so you probably, for sure, you got asked a lot of questions about this, right? They said, why didn't you file in your first year? Was there anything going on that prevented you from doing it? Is there any other reason? Has anything changed that makes it such that you're at greater risk now, or you were at greater risk around the time that you applied than when you entered the United States back in 2006? So there are exceptions to the rule that you need to apply during your first year. And that's why they ask you all these questions, is to try to figure out whether you qualify for one of the exceptions, such that it's like an excuse where you can still win asylum even though you didn't file in your first year. So, if you end up getting a negative decision and you get sent to immigration court, there may still be hope, as I was explaining just a minute ago. Okay. Watching from Nigeria. Okay, great. Yeah, so we have a lot of Nigerian clients. Remember, though, you can only apply for asylum in the United States. So you got to get here if you want to apply for asylum, or someone that you care about. They need to know that. Okay. Oh man, this is crazy. So Promise says, "Hey Brian, I'm watching from Delaware. It's been." Oh, okay. I thought it said 10 years. It's been 10 months. Okay. It's been 10 months since my asylum interview, but still no decision from USCIS. Is that a good or a bad sign? I'm scared. Thank you for your question. I'm sorry that you're scared. And I got to say, it must be a difficult position to be in, being an asylum applicant who is in limbo and waiting. That must be very difficult. So I'm sorry that you're in this tough position. Okay. Um, so um, here's the thing, promise. If you've been waiting 10 months from your interview, that means that you probably applied. Well, you could have applied 11 months ago, or you could have applied 5 years ago, or 8 years ago, whatever. Look at the time from the time that you applied until now, and add that up. Okay, so the time that you applied, not the time you had your interview, from the time that you applied. If you applied more than like 3 years ago, then you might want to consider suing the government to get your decision. Okay, because you can do that, right? Like the government has to act in a reasonable period of time on any immigration application. And when they don't do that, you can sue them. Okay. And we can help you with this. Um, Basically, you're saying, listen, government, you're supposed to do your job and you're not doing it because you haven't given me a decision. I've been waiting a long time. Okay. It's called a mandamus lawsuit. And it can be super effective. All right. But let me go back to none of that. Is it a good sign or bad sign that you've been waiting for 10 months since your interview? Neither. It doesn't mean anything necessarily. It doesn't mean good, doesn't mean bad. It could be any reason. There's lots of reasons why it takes a long time to get a decision after an interview. Okay. Security checks that are still pending, that they're still working on. But even that doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean that it's going to be a denial. Okay. Basically, the upshot is there's no way to know why it's taking so long, and it does not necessarily mean it's a good thing or a bad thing. I just try not to worry about it. At least don't worry about that. Okay. The fact that it's taking a long time after your interview is not necessarily a good thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. There's no way to know. So don't worry about that. Okay. But I wish you all the best, and I hope it happens soon. Andrew De La Rocha on LinkedIn, my friend, says, great video, Brian. Very informative. Keep up the great work. Thanks, Andy. Good to see you on here. Happy New Year to you. I hope you're doing well. It's been a while. All right. So, okay, I'll answer this. Even though Ngong is in Nigeria, he said earlier, he asked, I want to answer this question because it applies to a lot of people who are in the United States. Now, he says, can I work in the United States while my asylum case is under review? And the answer is yes. So someone who's in the United States and applies for asylum is eligible to apply for a work permit 150 days, basically 5 months after they submit their asylum application, if your case is still pending, if it has not been approved. And that doesn't matter whether you are applying with USCIS or if you are in deportation proceedings and applying with the immigration court, you're eligible to apply for your work permit 150 days after you filed your asylum application. Okay. And even if you get a negative decision from USCIS and your case is sent to immigration court for immigration court proceedings, you can keep on working on your work permit. You can keep renewing it, even if the immigration court makes the negative decision. And if you appeal that decision to the Board of Immigration Appeals on time, then you can keep working and keep renewing your work permit. So that's how that works. But if you get approved for asylum, you can work legally right away. In fact, you don't have to submit an application for a work permit. From the day that you get the approval letter, you're eligible to work legally right then. Okay. And that could be soon. In affirmative asylum with USCIS, a lot of people, a lot of people have been getting their interviews very quickly within a month or 2 or 3 months of applying. And some of them are getting their decisions quickly too, such that they get a positive decision or approval before they are even eligible to apply for a work permit, meaning before they reach those 150 days. So that's a possibility too. Okay, let's see. Thanks for all your questions. Good to see you here too. All right, let's take one more, okay? All right, so Nabil says, hello, sir, I applied for asylum December 20 of 2022. Well, actually, it says December 22. maybe that was December 22 of 2022. How long does the receipt notice take now? Thank you. Okay, Nabil, it depends. Did you apply for asylum online or did you apply on paper? I'm guessing you applied on paper by mail, because if you apply online, you almost certainly would have gotten your receipt notice already. For people who apply online, you usually get the receipt notice the next day, within a day or two. And that's one of the reasons why applying online is better. Did you know that you can apply for asylum online? You can, and you should. Nabil, if you applied with paper by mail, it could be a long time. It could be 6 months. A lot of people have been waiting 4 to 7 months for their receipt notice when they apply on paper by paper. Okay, so unfortunately, yeah, it's probably going to be a while. All right. Well, yeah, he says I applied on paper. So unfortunately, Nabil, it's going to be a while probably. I would guess be ready to wait 6 or 7 months. Okay. All right. That is it for today. Give us a call, 713-909-0401, if you want to talk about your case. Okay. We have people all over the country to secure their future in the United States through asylum. So I'd love to talk with you if you want to take a look at your case and see if we might be able to help you. Okay. So thank you. And I appreciate your comments and your feedback. And I hope that you have a great day and a great start to this new year of 2023. Thank you. Bye, guys. Have a good one.